Hello and welcome to the Will and Willie pre-election special primary edition here on the California side, brought to you by Lefty O'Doul's Margarita and Bloody Mary Mix, available at Safeways, Lucky's, Bevmo, Rayleigh's, and other fine stores. I'm Paul Wells here with Willie Brown and Will Durst. Good to see you guys again.
Nice to see you too, Paul, and I love the idea about the mix.
The margarita mix. Mm-hmm. Damn straight.
I love it.
Drinking some right now.
There?
Yes.
Yeah.
You got some and all I got was water.
Even without tequila, it's still pretty good.
We'll be covering the state and local propositions, some of the things that are going on in the presidential election, the primary, and we'll even do a movie time as Mayor Brown's column at the, you're now considered a San Francisco Chronicle columnist. I've seen that since our last show. Whenever they write about
you're not a politician, you're not the ex-speaker, you're now a columnist, you're now a journalist.
So no, not a journalist, a columnist.
Oh, right.
Columnist.
Columnist is not necessarily a journalist. A journalist is somebody with talent who tends to verify his information.
Yeah, you just make stuff up.
That's right. Your columnist is a creative writer who in many cases is doing fiction.
But entertaining fiction.
Absolutely, absolutely. Engaging fiction. You should hear the dialogue with the editors when I produce the column. Oh man, that's interesting.
So you get to shoot it through an editor too? They don't just...
Well, yeah, they want to make sure that, I guess, figure...
Nothing actionable?
Well, so far, 4 years, and they have not yet been sued. That's amazing,
Not even your anonymous cab drivers?
Yeah, no.
Way over a cab driver said.
Well, they want to be careful that, you don't identify the source
Right.
for fear that the source may not be identifiable.
But then you can't source the source
That's
either.
right.
So you
That
can
is
just...
right. You got it. You got
That
it.
keeps it clean. Well, Proposition 28, State Proposition 28, that is something that's come around from the fact that you were Speaker of the Assembly for California for so many years, and then a law was passed to put term limits in, and now we see that we have a musical chairs in Sacramento that has not been very beneficial to government in our state. So,
Well, Prop 28, which says, you can serve 12 years in one house.
Instead
Down
of
from
14 years.
That's right.
Cumulative.
Yeah, but the interesting part about it, it has no application to any existing member. Anybody who's elected under the 1990 term
It says
limit.
future.
That's right. Only. But you cannot, any person who got elected since 1990 to the present day is not eligible if this law becomes operational. Obviously, it's going to be tested in every fashion if and when it passes, and I think it, will pass with no question at all. I think it passes and it will be tested, because how do you keep a person who is not currently holding office and who could run for office, like Willie Brown? How do you keep me from not taking advantage of it? The fact that I'm barred for life under the old terms doesn't mean that I'm barred for life. This is a new law, and the new law should give me equal access and equal opportunity. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. All the challenges that
It's going to go to the courts immediately.
Oh, it has to go to the courts immediately. Because just think about it. If I'm where I currently serving, and the guy gets elected this November, he has 12 years in the House, and I'm about to have to go out after only...
After your third term.
That's right,
Yeah.
after only 3 terms. Why? That doesn't make any sense. Why would not, if I'm elected post the passage, I should be subject to the passage. I should not be subject to something happened 10, 12, 14, 20 years ago. And in this case, it's 22 years ago.
What's the precedent on something like this?
Well, I don't know if there's any precedent or not. I know that in 1994, 95, Tom Bates, who's now the mayor of Oakland, mayor of Berkeley, filed a lawsuit. He wanted to run again for the state assembly, and he said he didn't do anything to be barred for life except getting elected. And the courts didn't even give him any attention. It was just a matter of minutes before they dismissed his efforts. And his wife proceeded to run, and now she's served in the assembly for 6 years, and she's now about to be elected to her second term as a state senator. And he, in the meantime, is the mayor of Berkeley. You know, I guess those people have never worked, huh? They've only had
That's the way a lot of people see it.
elected jobs.
Bouncing around.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what happens when you try to limit somebody. You should not limit people. There are some people who should not serve one term.
There's a lot of people
That's correct.
who shouldn't serve
That
one
is
term.
correct. And then there are other people that ought to serve until they die, if the voters choose to permit them to do so, because they're highly productive and whatever you. And just think, I never would have been mayor of San Francisco.
If you'd
without
been
term
turned
limits.
out, yeah.
Yeah.
You would have been speaker for
I'd
life.
still be speaker.
Yeah.
I'd still literally be speaker today had they not had term limits, I think.
Well, it's because we got term limits. Because of the little machinations that you pulled where the Republicans had a majority and you still got re-elected speaker. So
Well,
they were so angry about that
But
they
see,
didn't care if they were cutting their own throat. They were willing to cut off their nose to spite you.
That's what they tried. And they did cut off their nose, because I immediately became mayor.
Yeah, you jumped the ship.
And all the rest of them are still looking around for something to do.
Well, that's what happens is you lose all the institutional memory that everybody who knows where all the bodies are buried and how this legislation affects the future legislation, they're all gone. And the only people who remain are the lobbyists.
That's
Because
right.
there's no
Lobbyists in the
term
sta-
limit on lobbyists.
No, lobbyists and the staff.
And the
staffs
staffs.
in Sacramento have risen to the level now where they are more important than the members. Literally. As a matter of fact, they got one staff guy in the Senate that they identified. There are 40 state senators. They identify this guy as the 41st state senator.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because
He
he
knows
says
everything.
yes or no. No, he says yes or no on whether or not your legislation moves. Because the membership is so uninformed and so inexperienced. They literally defer to his judgment on whatever you wish to do, which is a terrible thing because he's not elected. He's totally anonymous, and he carries with him a group of senior staff people that make similar kind of decisions. Jerry Brown is running into that as the governor of the state of California. He can't figure out who he should talk to. The elected types or not the elected types? When we were there, we were the elected types, and we actually made the decisions. We ran the plays, and we did not perceive ourselves as being hopelessly uninformed and would rely upon some staff person to provide the info. We relied upon quality staff people, but in their advisory capacity, we made the decision.
And now it's the other way around.
The other way,
So
the combination of the lobbyists and the staff people actually are orchestrated, and that's why you can't easily get the votes you need to pass a budget or get the votes you need to do financing, because so much outside influence. When I served, there wasn't a Republican who had signed they would never vote for a tax increase. They didn't do that. That wasn't part of the deal. There was nobody who was totally beholden to any given organization, so much so that they would give the organization the right to veto whatever they wanted. You know, as a matter of fact, as some members you chat with up there now, and they'll tell you, I'm sorry, go see, California Teachers Association, or go see the child lawyers, or go see, and if it's okay with them, it's okay
their
with
permission,
me.
yeah.
If okay with them, it's okay with me. Why do I need you? I'm going straight to the trial lawyers. I'm going straight to the teachers.
So do you think it'll pass? Do you think 28 will pass?
I think so. I think the public.
It's the fifth time they've tried to amend the term limit. So it's all the other four have gone down because they've been painted as career politicians trying to get around.
Well,
but this one actually drops from 14 years to 12 years. But if you read the arguments, the guys who Californians against term limits, and this is a scam, and right here in this is just a scam, and they're really angry. They think it's another.
In reality, you know what it really
politician.
is? It's the efforts to change the survivability of the elected leadership, whether it's the pro tem of the Senate or whether it's the Speaker. Currently, I left in 1995. I had been Speaker from 80 to 95. From 1995 to the present day, I think there have been 9 speakers.
Yeah.
one every 18 to 24 months.
John Perez
since
is
I
the
left.
latest.
Yes, and he will have to leave because of the 6-year term limits. You immediately get elected speaker and they start talking about who's going to replace you. Well, you know, who was going to replace me? It was somebody who was going to be conceived next year.
We'll have to move on to Proposition 29 in the next segment and also get on to presidential election as well as the local propositions that are on the ballot. I'm Paul Wells here with Willie Brown and Will Durst, and we'll return with more of the program, The Will and Willie Show, here on TV 20, also on News Talk 910 and 960 AM.